Do you want to see a little trick? Do you hear that? There's a little Mona ghost hiding underneath the blanket there. Good morning everyone, and welcome to this video where we're going to be doing a look with the Mothership 3 Subversive palette. In celebration of the fact that this palette is finally back in stock. She's been a bit of a mythical creature in the past couple of years, coming in and out of stock. And on top of that, she's also become really popular, making the demand really high and the supply really low. Now, the restock says still that it's limited quantities. I don't really know why that is. I have a theory that they're having issues with the supply or manufacturing or whatever of an ingredient in this eyeshadow palette, which is why they're only able to make very small batches of it and it's so difficult for them to keep it in stock. If anything, I'm hoping that this is not something that's going to lead to "We're very sorry, but we have to discontinue the palette because we can't supply the ingredient anymore," because it wouldn't be the first time. I'm going to start doing my makeup, by the way. I'm grabbing my Glow Last by Auric as usual. So I don't really know. Some of you have indicated that you would like to wait for a sale in order to purchase the palette. I can totally understand that, because in this day and age when Pat does sales pretty much every other week, you don't want to screw yourself over paying full price for a Mothership palette, because those ain't cheap. But at the same time, when it comes to this specific palette, it's been in stock so rarely in the past 2 years. I think pretty much since the pandemic started, this palette has been mostly out of stock. Even before that, I think it was out of stock. And then every time it's come back in stock, it's been there for a relatively short amount of time, because other Mothership palettes have also been out of stock, like Mothership 1 and Mothership 2 were also out of stock for a while, but then they came back and they've been pretty much around this whole time. I don't know whether that's going to happen with Subversive. I'm not going to tell you to go and spend $125 without a sale, or maybe with a 10% off code. I don't know how she's going to do this. Now be grabbing my First Aid Beauty Bendy Avocado Concealer in the shade 2. I'm just going to alternate between the two concealers that I have in my collection, because I like both of them and I would like to, you know, divide my time equally between my children. So yeah, just, you know, in celebration of this fact and the fact that Subversive still remains one of my absolute favorite palettes, I decided to do a look with it today. And I'm considering making this my first palette that we do a week of, just like I've done for Celestial Odyssey and Utopian Dream, which were, you know, newer releases, and I kind of treated those a little bit differently. Back when I bought Subversive, I wasn't really doing reviews or anything of the sorts with the Mothership palettes, because they were not new when I bought them, and I was also on maternity leave when I purchased them, so I didn't really have that much time on my hands to film videos. But, you know, I think it's as good as time as any to revisit Subversive now that it's coming back in stock and it's so incredibly popular. My personal hope is that this palette doesn't get discontinued. I'm going to grab the Estee Lauder, what was this one called again? The Double Wear Light Foundation. This is a foundation that has been discontinued a really long time ago, and I still have some bits and pieces here left that I have inherited from Alice, who was really done with this foundation because it wasn't a good shade match for her, but it is a perfect shade match for me, and it remains to this day one of my absolute favorite formulas of foundation. I'm very sad that they've discontinued it. It is such a great balance between coverage, longevity and finish on the skin. It's just so good. It remains fantastic to this day. It's very sad that they've discontinued it. Anyway, so yeah, my hope is that they don't discontinue Subversive, because I can see a day when I'm going to, you know, pan Gigabyte and I will not be able to live without it, and I will have to go repurchase the whole palette just for Gigabyte. And I hope that when that day comes, this palette is still around and not something of the past, because Pat has never re-promoted Gigabyte. It's one of the shades that I would not mind at all having in multiple palettes, but unfortunately she has never re-promoted that shade. Maybe it's the shade for which the ingredient is hard to get, who knows. To set my face, I'm going to pull out my Dior Powder No Powder, and I will do the same with my finishing powders that I'm doing with my foundations and my concealers. I'm just going to rotate through all of them without really focusing on one specifically. Just, you know, going to rotate, give love to everyone, so that I don't feel like anyone is neglected in the collection. For my bronzer today, I'm going to dip into the Chanel Soleil Tan de Chanel bronzer. So I'm going back to work for the first time today in almost like 2 weeks or so. Because today is day 10 since I tested positive for COVID. And I did a test again this morning and it was negative. Or at least I consider it to be negative. I left the thing a little bit, I always leave it out for like a really long time, and it's never really turned positive before, but today after half an hour there was still a faint band in the test line. But I'm not super surprised because, like I said in my previous video, you can test positive up to 8 weeks, and also these tests are not very reliable if you leave them past the 15 minutes which is recommended in the manual. So I will treat the test as a negative, and I also think after 10 days it should be pretty safe for me to go out and about in the world again. And I am excited to rejoin the world, to be honest with you. I had enough of sitting at home. I am very curious how I'm going to respond to almost a full day of, well, almost a full day. I'm only going to go for half a day to my job, and then I'm going to go to the hairdresser in the like late afternoon hours because I cannot wait to get rid of my hair. But it's going to be a pretty full day. I'm going to bike for the first time in several weeks, and I hope that I have enough energy for that. That is the only thing I'm really worried about, not having enough energy and like starting to feel really exhausted again. For blush today, I feel like I need something like bright and sparkly on my cheeks, so I'm going to grab Electric Bloom from Pat McGrath. Probably not necessarily the best color choice for my clothing today and for the look that I'm going for, but I just really want to feel bright and shiny, and this blush never fails to make me feel like that way. So I'm going to put it on. Yeah, definitely not a great choice with my clothes, but what can you do? I just think it looks so like bright and fresh on my complexion. I really enjoy the color of this blush. It looks super bright in the pan, as you can tell, and I'm sure it will scare off a lot of people of a lighter complexion. And you do have to be very, very careful when you apply it because you can easily go overboard. But with that said, if you don't over apply it and you enjoy these kind of like bright coral shades, I think this just livens up the complexion so much. For highlight, I'm going to take my trusty Golden Nectar, one of my favorite highlighters of all time. I spritzed my little sponge here with Fix Plus, and I'm just going to go around the edges, especially here, of all of my complexion, well, not complexion, but like cheek products, in order to melt them a little bit better. And then whatever is left, I'm just going to set the rest of my face with. Today is a big day in the Netherlands because we are letting go of most of the COVID-related restrictions, including, you know, face masks in public spaces, including closed spaces. The only place we still need to wear a face mask is airports and like public transport. At my workplace, of course, they still pretend it's 2020. I'm going to stop rambling and take a little bit of statuesque now because the only matte brown shade in this palette is a very, very deep brown shade, and I don't want to go overboard with that. So I'm just grabbing my trusty statuesque here in order to blend through my crease as usual. Okay, and now I am going to jump into the Subversive palette, and what I would like to do now is take a little bit of this deep brown shade, and I'm going to apply it as usual as a little bit of like a sketched wing here and in my lashes, just to give my lashes a little bit of depth and definition. If I find a fucking pencil brush, that is. So are any of you planning on getting this palette now at the restock? I'm very curious. Or are you going to wait for a sale? I mean, with the fact that Pat does sales every other week, it's almost stupid to not wait for a sale. But at the same time, you know, if really the quantities are limited, do you want to miss on it? I get your dilemma. I get it. Honestly, I will be completely honest with you. If it were up to me and I have been waiting for years to get this palette and I wasn't sure whether it will stick around for a while, I would probably buy it with like the 10% off code or whatever she gives now on the day of the restock, or maybe even full price. But that's just me. I'm insane, and I am in a position where I can find the full price palette and not really break the bank. But that's just me. I'm curious what you guys are going to do. and I'm curious which ones of you are going to pick up the palette, either now or when it goes on sale. Because I think there's quite a lot of you here that don't have this palette. Oh, I forgot to zoom you in. I'm sorry. Let me zoom you in. Also, can we talk about my super cute earrings? I bought these gorgeous ear climbers earrings on Etsy because I became obsessed with ear climbers after I got my first pair from Ana Luisa a couple of months ago, and then I started looking around to buy more, but to be honest with you, I didn't see as much variety in like on websites or in stores as much as I have seen on Etsy. I can leave the Etsy store from which I bought these in the description box below if you're interested. These are silver sterling gold, so it's like I don't think they're gold plated. I think it's some sort of like a amalgamation of gold and silver. I'm not really sure how it works, but that's a little bit what they are, and they are super fucking adorable. I'm actually going to take Intensifies now from Pat McGrath Labs, and I'm just going to click a little bit out and then take my finger and apply a little bit here onto my inner corner. Well, in my inner corner I can just go with the Intensifies stick. Actually, I don't like applying the Intensifies stick over areas of my lid where I already have eyeshadow, because I really don't like to make the thing too dirty. Want to keep the lid a little bit more airy and light. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this shade here, the boring champagne shade that Pat always puts in her big mothership palettes, and this one happens to be one of my favorite ones because it has a very beautiful like golden sheen to it. And I'm going to pop that here all over my lid, and I'm also going to pop that here into my inner corners, because what else would I pop in there anyway? And honestly, this look is a testament that you can do super neutral looks with the Subversive palette, and it's not just for very like smoky and intense looks. Because if you were to apply just something a little bit like brown on your lower lash line or something, and there are 2 browns in this eyeshadow palette, then you would have the most neutral look I can imagine. But that is not what we're going for. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this shade here. This is the shade VR Pink. And I'm going to apply VR Pink over top of that champagne in order to give it a beautiful duochrome and sparkle effect. And because of that lighter base we put underneath, that's going to, you know, make VR Pink also appear lighter in tone. Actually, I'm just going to apply VR Pink with my fingers because I think the finish is prettier that way. And on my lower lash line, I'm going to apply the tiniest bit of the deep brown shade here just to connect with the outer corner. But then I'm going to apply Gigabyte on the rest of my lower lash line, just so it fits with my clothing a little bit. And in order to make Gigabyte pop a little bit, I'm actually going to just apply the tiniest bit of Intensifies here on the area of my lower lash line where I want Gigabyte to really stick. So just in case you forgot, this is Gigabyte, the beautiful olive greened gold. Let me grab a somewhat more appropriate brush, something that is a little bit more like this. It fits into underneath the lash really well. My lower lashes are still quite long, so I sometimes struggle to shove brushes that are fluffier underneath there. So here you have the final look, I think, for a palette that is considered to be very difficult to approach because the colors are just so intimidating and so smoky and so deep. This is a pretty approachable look. As usual with Pat palettes, I feel like this one is also much more versatile than you would expect upon first look at it. So yeah, this was the look I did with this palette. Is it going to turn into a week of Subversive? I don't know. We shall see how my inspiration goes, because I've also done a bunch of looks with the Subversive palette on this channel. A really long time ago I did a collab with Bia where at the time when I was still doing the Project 5 wears, which was basically kind of the same as like a week off, but instead of actually showing you how I do the looks, I just describe the way that I combined the colors and I just show you the end result. So I'm sure you can easily find that on my channel. If I don't forget, I'm going to link it up in the cards for you. So like I said, I've already done a bunch of looks and I don't really want to repeat myself, so I wonder if I can really come up with that many new and unexpected looks with this palette. If I'm being honest, I might have done a look like this before, I can't be sure. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. This was just mostly for me to let you know that the Subversive palette is coming back in stock, so you should keep an eye out for that if you are interested in it. Before I forget, on my lips I have a lipstick and a gloss. The lipstick is Velvet Affair from Lisa Eldridge. And on top of that I applied a little bit of Gold Allure, which is one of Pat's Lost glosses. Don't forget to let me know what you thought about this look, and actually let me know if you are interested in seeing a week of the Subversive palette on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!